Morning, morning. Welcome all. Lee, what are we talking about this morning? Planning. It seems like lots of people haven't been planning this morning to join us, so I'm not too sure where it's all falling down for those people. But we planned, we here, so let's get the show on the road.
Yeah, so the word that came out of the conversation yesterday was prepared. We were talking about um, opportunities, and I think Ivan, you used this image of this convergence of opportunity as this convergence between preparation and chance, and so it just stimulated for me. What does it mean to be prepared? And of course, that's the old, um, even as a Girl Guide, I remember the little salute, right? Their motto, be prepared. And so what does it mean to be prepared? And as I was thinking about it, I was thinking about my sister and I getting ready to go out at night. So she lives in Australia at the moment, and so visiting here, and we're going to go out for an evening. I'm going to be a little bit dressed up, which means we're not going to take our voluminous handbags with all the goodies in it. We're going to take this little slim evening bag. So now you have the bare essentials, So what is it that you have to have that's essential for that evening out? And I've got tissues, 2 sets of glasses, my credit card, because you have to be able to pay for something, and some cash, because sometimes you can't rely just on the credit card. I've got my lipstick, I've got my cell phone, I've got some tissues. I've got like I'm needing quite a lot of stuff. My sister takes her lipstick and her cell phone. That's it. She's done. She's ready for the night. And I just think you can be prepared, but it depends on what you're prepared for. So my sister is 100% prepared to have fun. That's all she is thinking about. That's all she has to do. And she's prepared for that. And I'm thinking of all kinds of other eventualities. So I just leave that as a kind of fun way of entering into the conversation and saying, okay, so what does it mean to be prepared?
So yeah, the question then becomes: is there such a thing as over preparedness, or does it become analysis paralysis after a while, and you start worrying about all these eventualities that may never materialize, and get yourself caught up in a spiral of doing little and preparing much. So Ed, yeah, what's in your handbag when you go out gallivanting in the evening?
Yeah, I think I'd like Lee's sister. As Lee was talking, I was thinking, well, us blokes are always unprepared, aren't we? Because, we just don't do anything. We just rock up. Yesterday, I got caught out by Lee because I hadn't looked the word up in the dictionary. So yesterday, when the email came out, I looked the word up and it totally changed what I was going to say. Because prepared is to make or get ready for use, to assemble, but it also means to be ready or disposed or to be willing. And I think yesterday Trevor quoted from Dickens' Tale of Two Cities, and I think Lee used the same quote sometime last year. I want to quote from Dickens, but from David Copperfield. And it's Barkis is willing. I don't know if you know the scene. It's where the guy wants to marry the woman because she cooks nice chops. And it made me start to think, well, how willing are we to change our moral compass depending on what the reward is? And we've seen cases of, in the UK, if you get a speeding ticket from a camera, you have to say who's driving the car. And a few times a partner has said they were driving the car when they weren't, to save the other person getting points on their license and losing their license. And then it's all come to light, and there was a couple of MPs that lost their jobs over it. And I thought, well, how prepared are we to kind of do wrong? You know, what would happen if one of our family members committed a crime? Would we stay silent? If we got questioned by the police over it, would we lie? How bad does that crime have to be before we tell the truth? And then how prepared are we to disadvantage other people when we exploit an opportunity? Nice link back there to yesterday. So I think that side of preparedness is quite interesting. And I do wonder, you know, how prepared we are to do something if the reward is big enough. And then I started thinking about the more traditional thoughts about preparation, what to put in my handbag, etc. And I think Lee's spot on. You know, there are different ways of preparing depending on what you're going to do. If, for example, you were preparing the soil to plant some crops, you wouldn't freshly manure it if you were going to plant root crops, because it, for example, carrots would then fork and you wouldn't have nice carrots. And you might put nitrates on the soil, but you wouldn't do that if you're planting legumes, because they produce their own nitrate. And then some crops you might put lime on the soil first to change the pH. So it depends what you're preparing for and what you do. And even then it gets more complicated, because if you're preparing to go running, you would do different things if you're a sprinter doing 100 meters than if you're an ultra runner. You know, a sprinter would do a very long warm up, maybe some stretches, all that sort of stuff, whereas an ultra runner wouldn't. They would make sure they got some water, some food, maybe some emergency clothing, all that sort of stuff. And what's interesting is, if you were competitive, if you're a sprinter, you'd be willing to avoid sex the night before, and probably a couple of nights before, because it lowers your testosterone, which is really useful if you want to be a sprinter. Whereas for an ultra runner, you wouldn't, because being relaxed in the morning means you use up less energy in the morning. So you'd want to be relaxed, because you're going to need all your energy to get through your 100 miles or whatever. So you'd be willing to do different things depending on what you're doing, which brings us all the way back full circle to Barkis is willing. And so you can see I prepared that.
And very well prepared it was too. Yeah, so interesting things. Are you prepared to be prepared? Yeah, and as Lee says, now we know why you're an ultra marathoner. So Edjan, you've got to behave yourself. None of this naughty stuff before you race. So Jasper, what's in your handbag when you go out dueling at night?
All right, I think you'll see me just coming in on my computer now, so it'll be easier for me to work like that. So let's first just connect. And I think you need to let me in.
So Jasper was unprepared, and now he's prepared twice. So he's coming in on 2 different devices. So we're going to have his evil doppelganger joining us. There he comes. Ooh, okay, so now we've got feedback, Jasper, so you need to shut the other one off. There we go. And now you need to unmute yourself, and then we are on the way for away. Be prepared.
Right. Now, because the screen is much more interactive and I can see people simultaneously. So yeah, Well, like you have rightly observed there, I'm totally unprepared for this morning so far. And I think that's probably part of life, is that, you know, all of a sudden life can throw you a curveball, and then you have to first deal with the curveball and then try and get on with life. And I think part of our makeup is to try and get back to our own, call it expected normality, as fast as possible. And then you do all sorts of things just to get back to your own normality. With the topic of planning and preparation, I'm stuck in my mind right now because we're entering this new season or this new year. And if it's pretty much just yourself, or maybe in Lee's case, a sister, you know, it's very quick and easy to make a decision and to plan and to get on with the job. But it's much more frustrating and taxing if you can't just do it on your own. You're part of a structure, and you have to take people with you. And you're not necessarily at that point in time all in agreement. And then that whole, so planning as a process is well understood and is very essential. But before one can get to planning is to first getting to agreeing. So if Lee and her sister didn't agree that they want to go out and have fun in the evening, and they were sitting around to say, what are we going to do? You know, planning won't come into the picture at all. You first have to agree on something. And the frustration is, are you busy with your plan or with someone else's plan? So maybe planning and preparation is two different things. But those are just the discussions that, the conversation that was running in my mind right now. And one of my frustration is with one of the entities that I'm involved in. I'm struggling to connect with the person. He's an extremely poor communicator. He's not responding to WhatsApps, and so part of my makeup is I need to be able to pick up a phone, and we don't have to have long conversations, but I need to discuss what's on my mind and unblock whatever is blocking the situation and then move it forward. But I feel totally blocked by working with a person that's very a poor communicator, and now, you know, your mind's starting to play games with you. So coming back to the topic, planning, preparation, I think what's within your control, then you can do that. And I think the best we can do is to plan for the what do you call it, the eventuality that might occur, even a bad eventuality. And that gives us a sense of control. But I'm just questioning, to what extent do we plan and prepare when it's not just you? You're part of a structure, you're part of many people. So again, I just leave you with questions. I don't have answers.
Jesper, that's just not good enough. You got to prepare some answers for us sometime. we need those. So yeah, the question becomes: is it worth preparing? You know, if you can never know what the eventuality is and you don't know the future, so how do you prepare for something that you don't know? So yeah, good questions. So I think the real thing for me is you've got to be prepared to take advantage, Lee. You've got to be prepared to take advantage of the opportunity when it presents itself. So how do you prepare for that? Because again, you don't know what it is and what it's going to be and when it's going to appear. And as I said earlier, I think one of the risks is that you get caught up in this spiral of perpetual preparation, which becomes dysfunctional. And I think can actually hamstring you in the process, because now, you know, something does pitch up and, oh, well, I'm not ready. You know, I'm not prepared to take advantage of this. I don't know, because I haven't planned enough. You know, I don't have those extra tissues in my handbag, or you know, I got the wrong lipstick, you know, and that doesn't match my dress or something. I'm not too sure, you know, what these ladies do with all the stuff in their handbags. It's it's a very confusing thing to us gents here. Ladies' handbags, great sources of fear and mystery, I think, when it comes to us gents. So yeah, how do you prepare? I think you've just got to focus on what you're good at and improving that. So if you're continually improving your own skills and your own abilities, and engaging with other people that challenge your thinking, challenge your processes, challenge your ideas. For me, that is part of preparation, because people who get locked into their little paradigms and aren't prepared to look beyond that, I don't think are ever prepared to truly take advantage of an opportunity that comes along, because it's just going to go straight past them without them even noticing it, because they're so locked into that little paradigm of their own, and don't believe that there's much beyond the walls of that for them. So for me, again, we've said it many times on this forum, and the goal of this is really to challenge us to think and to think differently, and to be open to ideas and thoughts that we may not have actually experienced before. And that's, for me, is the essence of preparation, is actually broadening your scope and your field of knowledge. And I mean, you don't have to be an expert at everything. You can't be an expert at everything. But if I know we have an expert ultra marathoner, and somebody wants information, I can point them to to that individual, and that for me is part of preparation, is knowing who and what and where to turn when something comes along that is outside your field of expertise, rather than either disregarding it completely or making a fool of yourself by appearing or trying to appear that you know all the answers when clearly you don't. So that sounds like a really convoluted ramble. So clearly I don't know the answers either, Jesper. Just going around in circles here, but yeah, I think it's an interesting challenge, So it comes back to I think the point we made earlier. Can you be over prepared? You can certainly be underprepared. And so how do you find the right middle ground? Because I think you can also be over prepared, and that goes back to what I was saying about being locked in your paradigm. And I think if you're over prepared, you're locked in your paradigm because you've made the decisions prior to the opportunity pitching up as to how you're going to deal with it and what you're going to do. And if it comes in a slightly different format, you're stuck, because now you've prepared for something and something else has actually happened. And you've got to go back to the drawing board. So it's an interesting balancing act in my mind, at least. So Lee, I'm going to hand back to you on that note and see whether we can take. Okay, let's go across to Ed then. So Ed, can you unravel any of that, or does it make any sense at all?
It's just, you reminded me about being locked in your own paradigm and being over prepared. When I sort of first started home ownership and things, self-assembly furniture was the big thing. And I used to get really fed up of screwing screws in. So I bought a battery-powered screwdriver. And then IKEA came along and produced their self-assembly furniture you tightened up with Allen keys. And the screwdriver was useless. So yeah, you can overplan, can't you?
Absolutely, yeah. You got to have the right tool for the job, and if you start off with the wrong tool and the different job comes along, then you've got a problem. Yeah. Okay, Lee. So, yeah.
I think I just, before we move on to the next topic, I do want to pick up on this twist that Edward raised in terms of what are you prepared to do. And it just made me think about a friend of mine. I might have raised it before on another topic, I don't know. But a friend of mine who we went to school together. He's the same age as me. He lives in PE. He came up for a visit recently, and we were talking about things that we've, new technology that we've had to learn. And he said, "Oh, but I don't do Zoom." He said somebody else comes and sets it up for me, and you know, he's got he runs a small business and there's somebody on his team that sets it up and does everything. So he said, no, I can't be bothered to learn. And I said to him, you know what? We've got new technology that's going to be coming our way for the next 5, 10, 15 years. If you don't learn the simplest thing like Zoom now, and you keep saying, oh no, I'm not prepared to do that, then the technology is going to get out of your reach and you're going to be left dependent on other people and swamped by the technology that's going to be coming your way. And so it just reminded me, you know, Edward, you reminded me of that preparation isn't just having all the goods, all the tools under your belt. It's what you prepared in your mind and in your thinking and in your doing that enables you to do the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And yes, what are you prepared to do for your family is a question that we all get asked because of things that happen in our family, unexpected things. You know, Ivan and I both, I mean, we've all been in the case. Jasper, you were talking about aging parents, and what are you prepared to do for aging parents? What are you prepared to do for children who've lost jobs? What are you prepared to do for siblings that, you know, are out of work or in trouble, or, you know, these are things that you have to face all the time, and it's the weighing up of what you can do. So it's all those risk assessment processes that you go through, as well as the willingness of your own spirit and heart to help.
Yeah, Lee, I think it raises an interesting point, and I think also where Ed was going is what are you prepared not to do? So in other words, where's the line? Where do you draw the line when it comes to certain things? And I think, you know, that for me really comes back down to understanding your personal values and things like that, because I think many people don't have a good solid grounding in understanding of what their values are, and therefore when something comes along that should be testing those values as I'm not prepared to do that, they wind up doing it because they don't have that clarity in their minds about how that would actually compromise a value or a, you know, a personal belief system. You know, the classic for me is once again our friends the politicians, you know, and I call you know, the what do they call it, situational morals and situational ethics. So their morals and their ethics change depending on the situation, which shows a complete lack of value systems and belief systems that underlie it, other than self-preservation. So I think it's for me, it's really, really important that one has a very clear understanding of what your value systems and what your belief systems are, and therefore what you are not prepared to do. So I will not go there. I will not do that. I will, you know, because that will compromise, you know, some fundamental parts of who I am and my integrity. So I think that's also an important part of understanding preparedness on both sides of the coin. So,
but is it a rigid line, Ivan, or is it perhaps a flexible plastic one?
Situational ethics and situational morals.
I do think that line can move sometimes.
Look, I think it probably does move over time, and as you get to understand, you know, who you are and what these things mean to you. I mean, for example, look at yourself. You know, at one point in your life you weren't a vegan, and now you are. And that's, you know, that is a change in a fundamental value system that you actually, you know, hold very dear now, and previously it wasn't a concern. So I think they can change, but I think for me the change needs to be a change based on a conscious decision, rather than a change based on an environmental, and when I say environmental, I mean a situation around you that is questioning whether you should move with the tide or whether you should move against the tide. And I think that's the challenge when people blow in the wind, as it were, with their values and their beliefs. For me, that's completely wrong. So I don't think it should be rigid, but I do think it should be clearly understood and a conscious decision as to whether I change that value now or not, rather than, it's peer pressure, I'm going to move with the crowd today, and tomorrow I'm going to say, well, no, those things don't work for me, that's a problem as far as I see it. Right, so Lee, back to you.
Yeah, well, let's pick this up tomorrow. Because the thought that's been sort of mulling over in my mind for for the last little while, and it's this very prevalent issue that's around the world of this. We talk about divided. We're divided. There's there very, very strong opinions on the right, the conservative right, and very, very strong opinions on the liberal left. And, what chance do centrists have in the middle? And I guess the question for me is, how do you relate to somebody who thinks very differently to you? That does stem from different values, different ethical stands, and polarizing political views. So I'd like us to talk about do we make our stand, or how do we relate? That's the question. How do we relate to people who think very differently to us?
Great, thanks Lee. Thanks everyone. Yeah, so go out and relate and find somebody you can disagree with, and then come back and tell us how you solved the problem, because we don't want you to disagree with us at all. So
well, Edward's already made very clear that he can relate as much as he likes.
Be careful how you go down that road. So we'll find out to run any ultra marathons between now and tomorrow morning, but who knows. Have a good day, folks. We'll see you on the morrow. Cheers now.